Hello and welcome everyone to Governor DAO's DAO Speed Dating episode number 3. We're joined today by Dope Wars, Page DAO, and Unlock Protocol. The purpose of this space is to bridge communities, provide education, network, and possibly collaborate. Eth, do you want to introduce our first guest?
For sure. Thanks, Blake. So our first guest today is Dope Wars. So Dope Wars is a fully decentralized, community-driven gaming metaverse project inspired by hip-hop culture. They're bootstrapping a modern-day GTA-inspired metaverse and series of games built by their decentralized game studio on the Ethereum blockchain, inspired by the classic Drug Wars game that many of us played growing up.
Hey, thanks for inviting us up to chat today. I am Faces, one of the contributors on the Dope Wars project. We're building, like you introed, a decentralized gaming SDK and platform. We're hoping to build a series of games with that gaming SDK. We launched our project September last year with an NFT sale, kind of on the back of the loot hype. But we were not interested in wizards and dragons and spells and things like that, where we saw a different path to take, and we kind of went down that road of being inspired by the classic Dope Wars game, and thought, hey, how could we use these gaming building blocks or Legos to create gaming experiences that are backed by the Ethereum blockchain. So from those original Dope NFT tokens, which are also currently our DAO governance tokens. So one Dope is one vote in control of our treasury, which is funded by royalties of the NFT sales. We kind of all collaborated in the Discord and on Twitter and elsewhere to come up with a series of ideas. And so from those original tokens, you can claim individual pieces of NFT gear. So 9 pieces of gear that's actually is on the Optimism network, but you claim it on L1. You can also create what we call a hustler, which is our in-game player character, and swap out those pieces of gear and reconfigure them. All the artwork is stored on-chain on Optimism, which is kind of unique. So, if you have some gear, like let's say you have a hustler with a shovel or something, and you want them to be better equipped, you can go out and purchase on the secondhand market on an NFT marketplace, like an AK-47. And maybe that plays better in different games that we're developing. So we've also have an ERC20 token that was claimable from the original NFT Dope tokens called Paper, and we use that to claim gear from the original Dope token. So that's one use for it, and we are working to use it in a series of games. The first being a recreation of the classic Dope Wars game that's actually backed by the Starknet chain. So we have some community members who came in and said, hey, we'd love to work on this thing. We really like Cairo. We want to write an adaptation of the game on Starknet. So they're working on that, while some other of us are working on kind of like an MMO based game on Optimism. And the really unique thing I think about our project is that we are cross-chain. We're looking to expand kind of the idea of what you can do with on-chain gaming and on-chain asset management configuration. I think that's it, the sum of it. So we have a lot of stuff. We have a really big, vast ecosystem. We produced a mixtape with DJ Green Lantern. He's like the tour DJ for Snoop Dogg and has been for Eminem and some of the other people in the past. We have Shecky Green helping us out on the project, who was co-founder of the Source magazine. I don't know if anyone is a hip hop head here, but that was like a big influence in my life growing up. And then we have just kind of a shifting cast of contributors that pop in and out and help contribute to the experiences that we're making.
Lots of cool stuff going on there. I am a hip hop head myself. Definitely familiar with DJ Green Lantern. What other aspects of where does the DAO portion come into it? Can you speak a little bit more about that one Dope is one vote?
Yeah, for sure. So interesting. Interestingly enough, some of the people who launched the project, I was not actually one of the people who launched the project. I came in day 2, or day 1 or 2 after the mint. But the folks who launched the project are really big into DAOs, decentralized governance, and work on a voting platform called Tally, which maybe a number of you are familiar with. It's on-chain voting. I've also done a little bit of UX work for them over the past 6 months or so. But the idea was that, hey, if we can get people interested in these NFTs, fund a treasury through royalties, and then provide access to that treasury through voting in the DAO, what can be built, right? And so we've built some things over time. We have a website that does a number of things. You can see your hustlers and equip them, unequip them. We're working on a swap meet there. That was funded, or pieces of that funded by the DAO. We funded an artist via vote of the DAO to create the artwork for our pixel character hustlers. We've funded the music initiative, which produced that Green Lantern mixtape. And that's really been a source of, I think, creativity and also chaos, as like the parameters of the DAO were not really well defined when the project was launched. It was like, hey, here are some basic structures in place. You have a DAO, now go figure it out, right? And so we're kind of figuring out how to build the airplane while we're flying it to a degree, while working through all the things, all the positives and negatives that come with a DAO. Positives are, it's very exciting for new people to come into a DAO and really see the possibilities of what a DAO offers, being that, people see that they can buy in, purchase a dope token, have voting power over this treasury and kind of direct the project to a degree. But then that's also kind of a double-edged sword where, people will believe that they have opinions to offer on subjects when they don't really, maybe they might not have a history of creating products or software or gaming experiences. And, that definitely slows things down. We've had people come join the DAO. We've had people come and leave the DAO because of the frustrations with how slow things move. I don't think everyone really understands the idea that because it's a DAO, it doesn't mean that, everyone has equal say. It means that there's equal opportunity, right? And really the best way that I've seen people to come and interact with a DAO is come with an idea in mind and the ability to make that idea happen. And if you can make that idea happen and make it real, then the DAO will reward you. I see a lot of people coming in and making proposals saying, hey, you guys should do this or you should do that. And they believe just because they throw an idea out there that others in their community that are equal DAO members have to do the work that they suggest should be done. and that's kind of the downside, I think, of being in the DAO. And I think as time goes on, people will understand more kind of the operating agreements or principles of working in a DAO. And hopefully that behavior is modified and people really kind of get and engage with the positives of what working in a DAO could be. I know that was a long answer, so sorry if I rambled.
All good, brother. Yeah, I know you might be limited on time today, but if you can stick around, it'd be great to have some more discussion around that kind of thing towards the end. One more quick question for you. Like with the Green Lantern mixtape, do you guys get streaming royalties from that as well? Or is that just something that's standalone project?
Well, it was a standalone project, but it was the first half of a marketing effort that we called the Music Initiative. I forget the proposal number off the top of my head. I think it was like DIP7, and we're up to 40 right now in terms of proposals. But the Green Lantern mixtape was just intended to bring others into kind of the ecosystem and advertise to other people outside, like, hey, we have this interesting project that we're working on. The second half of that proposal was to, and is to, which is currently in progress, to fund an original music EP that would be tokenized and sold. And we're looking to align the drop of that with probably the release of, some other milestone that we're dropping. Like maybe we have our MMO game fully functional and open to the public where it's not in an alpha state anymore. We might drop it then and then do like a mixtape sale where people would get streaming royalties through, I forget the site, but it's like 3LAU, his site, where you can sell music NFTs and then actually get royalties through there, because there's a whole bunch of legal hurdles and things that have to happen with, I believe, the streaming services that we're not equipped to set up, and I think it would be foolish for like a DAO to set up. So we're really looking to leverage, other tools and things like that, which is great, working on kind of this open web framework.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I've heard of it. I think it's Royal. I'm not too sure though, but
yeah, that sounds familiar. I think it's royal.io, but I just couldn't remember it off the top of my head.
Last question. In terms of the Dope Wars game, what's the roadmap like for that? How far out are you looking?
Yeah, so we're looking. We did a really dumb thing, I think, which a lot of projects did, is we didn't stable our treasury last year, and so we're kind of running low on funds right now. So we're really looking for ways to bring in revenue in the short term, which has delayed the roadmap a bit. But we do have a working MMO game where you can like join in as your hustler and walk around. That exists today, and it's up on our site at dopewars.gg/game. You can go on with your web browser and wander around. We have a lot of the artwork already done for that. Right now, we're just working on kind of coding it and making it more solid and really like an enjoyable experience. And then we have a second experience, which is like the classic Dope Wars experience on Starknet, which is, like you buy and sell drugs. That one's already working, but we just haven't released it to the public. We're kind of waiting for some other pieces to fall into place with Starknet, but TLDR, we're looking probably into the year with like fully functional versions of the game. And then, we should have some other mini games coming up too, like where you can walk around the MMO and like maybe shoot dice with people, or like play rock, paper, scissors, or like go into a fighting game experience. And that's what I really want to hammer home, is that like we are a series of games and kind of like an open gaming framework, not just one game. And I think that's a thing that people don't understand when they first look up our project.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you can stick around, then that's great. If not, I look forward to talking to you or having you come back on in the future. Blake, would you like to introduce our next guest?
All right. Our next guest is Page DAO, and Epic Dylan from Page DAO. He's a former philosophy professor turned biotech researcher turned blockchain tech developer, founder of Page DAO, and is also a founding team member at Repizzas. He's also a writer in many different arenas. His goal is to help Web3 become more useful to people by adding literary capabilities. Welcome to the stage.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, right on. Glad to be here. I guess I'll just go ahead and introduce the Page DAO, which was kind of founded in steps. The first of which happened in summer of 2020, but the actual formal founding of the Page DAO didn't happen until about this time last year. It was July of 2021. And basically, what is going on with all of this is that there's this big movement that has started among some writers who used to write on the blockchain platform Cint. And basically, what we're trying to do is organize not only writing talent, but also dev talent, and kind of NFT talent more generally, to create collaborative fiction that involves various different NFT projects. Dope Wars would be an epic group to work with, perhaps even. We love doing collaborations with other DAOs because that's the movement that we're from, and that's the movement that we care about. So what is it though? What is the Page DAO? This is a question I get sometimes, and just saying like it's a decentralized autonomous organization geared towards making literature better for people who read on the one hand and people who write on the other hand. So we want to do this basically by leveraging Web3 tech to sort of reframe the publishing industry as more of a curation industry. So basically what we do to accomplish that is we pull out a lot of the different places where creatives in the past were getting hung up. So like a lot of times if you're an author, you write a lot of different things, you submit them to a lot of different places. Mostly you get rejected, even if you're successful, right? Because cold submissions, it's just a hard way to go. And so kind of the goal of being a writer in at least the creative writing space and coming up is to start getting requests for stories and things from, like Harper's Magazine or whatever. And so there's already this model in place, but it happens on such a small scale that it's not useful to most of the writers that exist. whether we're talking, science, like I talked about on the podcast that came out yesterday, or if we're talking about, something as unrelated as fiction or, poetry or, even like memoirs and stuff, right? The thing is that authors in general are something of an underserved market. And the reason is that the centralized establishment that has formed up in and around the publishing industry has taken as its primary objective the goal of, one, kind of keeping things exclusive, and two, kind of obscuring or obfuscating, information related to not only like the sales performance of the books, but also, in some cases, even authorship of them, right? And so our argument is that via Web3, we can allow people to create digital identities, for themselves that allow them to more thoroughly sort of interact with their audience on more different levels, and also cut out a lot of the fees that are generally associated with providing literature of any sort to an audience. So what this might look like in fiction would just be, an author writes something, they make an NFT of that thing. That NFT becomes available to not only people who are following PageDAO, but people who are following that particular author. And basically, the goal is to create a situation in which there is one big group working on one big project, which is infrastructure, blockchain infrastructure for literary creativity. So books, blog posts, essays, articles, that type of thing is what we want to support. And we do that in a variety of different ways, because largely what our concern is still at this point is R&D. We're getting out there, we're figuring out what authors care about, and we're figuring out how to give them the tools that they need to have a better experience as authors, participating in the writing market. So basically what we're doing now is we are creating an L1 to be known as the Page Network, and this is going to be an IBC-enabled blockchain. So largely this is going to store metadata at first, but after that we're going to build more and more functionality into it, and we are getting deeply integrated with Juno and Stargaze over in the IBC ecosystem.
That's great, Dylan. Thanks so much for that introduction there. I do have a couple questions for you in regards to the NFTs. So you have it's an NFT book minter. So how does that work? How does the membership work for that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, great question. So basically, with the NFT book minter, all you do as a user is go to mint.nftbookbazaar.com, and you can mint your book as an NFT there. It's a form, you just fill it out, you upload your PDF, upload your cover file, name the artist who did the cover for you, or name yourself again if you're the one who created the cover for it, and that's that. And all of this works on a token gate, and it only lets you do it if you own the NFT membership card for PageDAO. So you could get the OG membership, or you could get the 2022 membership, which right now is available at membership.nftbookbazaar.com. So basically, you just get the NFT. There's like 10,000 of them available on 2 different chains. We looked at deploying it to Optimism, but decided not to. So that may be coming. Right now, the chains that it's available on are Polygon and Evmos. So you can go pick one up for, I think it's 50 Matic, or maybe like 12 Evmos, 10 Evmos. So it's not very expensive to get a membership. Anyone who wants to can. So that's kind of how you get in.
Awesome. And they can find all that information on your Twitter page?
Yes, there is a link in our bio that goes to page.app.bio, or maybe page.scent.co. And that's like a link tree that has some collectible NFTs people can pick up. It was created by our friends at Scent. So
awesome. Okay, so last question is, how many authors do you guys have as part of your DAO currently?
we're actually up to over 1,700 Discord members. They're not all authors. I would estimate that we have something like 500 authors somewhere in the social loop. Currently, we have, I believe, just under 500 official PageDAO members in general. So not all of those folks are authors yet. Some of them will be writing books, but haven't. Lots of the rest of us have written, 8 to 10 to 20 books. So, we're basically a metaverse writers kind of guild. We're trying to band together, build tech that benefits everyone, make it all open source and permissionless, so anyone who wants to can
I
use.
have one last question. So in terms of the curation, do the DAO members get to vote on perhaps funding the publishing of a project for an author? Or what sort of governance modules are part of PageDAO?
Oh, right on. Yeah, the main thing we have currently is Snapshot. And so there are, it's one page token, one vote kind of thing. But since it's Snapshot, it's technically happening off chain. So the way we're actually handling that is more one person, one vote for Snapshot stuff. So soon we're going to spin up DAO, and that will give us the ability to do one token, one vote. But bridging Page to Juno is not the easiest thing in the world to do. So we're trying to figure out, do we need to launch a new token? What do we need to do? But it's further complicated by the fact that we're creating our own L1, which we'll eventually need to bridge these tokens into as well. So really, there's kind of a lot to the governance piece, and essentially, since it is a DAO, on sort of the same note that Drug Wars was talking about a second ago, if you're somebody who hears about this and thinks we need to do a book club, or something like that, then by all means, join the Discord. We can, perhaps grant you some page tokens to kind of signify, the significance of the project that you're picking up for the PageDAO, and kind of, start building that partnership together with, either you as an individual or you as an organization. But yeah, I mean, essentially right now, the main thing is that we're doing page token grants to other DAOs that care to come join the PageDAO. So the process for that is you write a snapshot proposal, and that's kind of that. So the next set of snapshot proposals are going to have a lot more to do with kind of the plumbing of the blockchain architecture that we're creating than the ones in the past, have really had to do.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on today. And just for the audience or whoever's listening, make sure to follow PageDAO, join their Discord, as well as our previous guest, Dope Wars. Make sure to check out their socials as well. And I'm going to pass it back over to you, Blake, to introduce our next guest.
Awesome. That was some good stuff. I enjoy hearing about both of the projects so far. Our next guest is Unlock Protocol. We have Patrick. After building an ecosystem to scale revenue at Pinterest and Experian, Patrick joined Unlock Labs to enable a new business model for the web. Patrick is responsible for growing the ecosystem of contributors to Unlock Protocol. His 20 years of experience building Web 2 ecosystems inspired him to expand the adoption of Unlock Protocol, evolving the web beyond a business model for attention to creating value between people and the communities and experiences they care about most. Welcome, Patrick. Tell us about Unlock Protocol.
Oh, thank you, and thanks everyone for listening. Unlock Protocol at its core is an open source EVM compatible protocol for memberships as NFTs. And the key to memberships as NFTs is that they're time-based, because time-based enables and unlocks, pun intended, capabilities that provide NFTs with superpowers, like being able to use them for subscriptions that could be potentially reoccurring. We have multiple event organizers that are building ticketing contracts and deploying those across EVM compatible chains in order to ticket their IRL events. I'm currently calling from Empire DAO in Manhattan, where we're working on a project to gate access with NFTs with the access control of a building. So kind of unlocking IRL spaces. And Julian Genesau started building Unlock Protocol in 2018. The premise was that the business model of the web, being attention, will not be sustainable. And the friction that is caused by individual login experiences that are centralized is going to decelerate our ability to have an inoperable web. So he built Unlock Protocol in order to reduce that friction. Anyone, any creator can go to our website, unlock-protocol.com. In the upper right-hand corner, we've built an app. And when I say we, I mean Unlock Labs has built an application that allows anyone to create, deploy a contract, and then that contract acts as a vending machine, allowing anyone to purchase the NFTs with crypto in an ERC20 that they would like, or with fiat. We've built a credit card on ramp as well. All of our tools are free to use. We are open source, and we handed over our treasury to a DAO 1 month ago. So Unlock Labs business model is, as it stands today, we own 70% of the token supply of UDT, which is our governance token. Every time an NFT is purchased, a reward of UDT goes to the deployer of that lock, and Unlock Labs gets a piece as well. As volume increases, eventually our supply of those governance tokens will be 20%. And at that time, we've tried really hard and did a good enough job of getting enough contributors to the ecosystem to really unlock a better web.
That's awesome. I'm hearing lots of sort of crossover with the projects that we've had on today. Lots of cool themes throughout, each project. So I did have a question for you, Patrick, and that was like, how are people contributing to the protocol?
Yeah, great question. So when I look at the ecosystem that we're creating, there's three factors. There are suppliers, so that would be anyone that has something that they would like to token gate. This could be publishers, an event organizer, in the case of this building, like a landlord. And those suppliers work with distributors. Those are existing and novel applications and platforms that help those suppliers take their product to market. And then on the other side, there are consumers. So that's who's contributing within our universe. The primary use cases right now are really building applications on top of Unlock Protocol. So we've seen some integrations with Guild XYZ recently that allows their community to token gate access to Discord and Telegram through Unlock Protocol. And we're also seeing kind of a rich library of plugins and integrations being created that enable anyone to token gate whether it be WordPress website, Shopify site, Discord, Telegram, Discourse, X, even developed a token gate for Notion the other day. So the real key are kind of the apps that are being built on top of that, and Unlock Labs being neutral and really just incentivized to increase contributions and utilization of the protocol.
Amazing stuff, man. Yeah, I've never heard of a Notion, a gated Notion thing before. That's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty much it I had for questions. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up in terms of roadmap items? Super cool to hear that you're working with Empire DAO. Was there anything else?
Yeah, I think that for us, the idea of this protocol truly being a public good with the aim since the very beginning of being governed by a DAO of developers and the people that use it is really important. Just like the early internet primitives and protocols like HTTP, there are governing bodies of those protocols, but they tend to be very monolithic and slow moving, and there hasn't been much of an incentive to change or build or grow. We're confident that by being decentralized and allowing ownership in the protocol to those who own it, will create kind of a better path forward.
So people, if they want to get involved, they can go to the Unlock Protocol official account on Twitter. You guys have a Discord as well?
Yeah, so in order to get involved, you could, our Discord is very active. We have Locksmith in our general channel picking and creating locks 24/7, 365 around the world. Twitter's a great place to reach us as well. If you go to our website, again, unlock-protocol.com, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a dashboard that anyone can use to create a smart contract, deploy it on any EVM compatible chain, and then get a purchase URL that you can send to anyone to start selling NFTs in minutes.
Wow, that's super exciting stuff. Thanks again, Patrick, for coming on today. Yeah, Blake, do you want to introduce the last guest?
Absolutely. Our last guest, of course, is Governor DAO. Through their proof of existence token and governance as a service, Governor DAO aims to set the standard for decentralized governance, biometric voting on the blockchain. With us from Governor DAO is John Greenwood. His day-to-day operations within Governor include communications with our partners and working with the team in an integrations role. He also serves as a business advisor for internal operations and does consultation work throughout the crypto space. Welcome to the stage, John.
Yeah, so my name is John. I'm one of the developers at Governor DAO. I'll give you a brief overview. Governor DAO started in late 2020. We were in the space for past couple of years now. We specialize in governance as a service primarily. That was kind of our first initial scope. From there, we dove into some specific use case scenarios, such as proof of existence, which is kind of our forefront technology at the moment. It allows for actual biometric Sybil resistance, first of its kind, and it's been tried and true now for over about a year and a half. So that tech is one of our big aspects of what we do. Beyond that, we have some kind of smaller modules for liquidity generation events. We have an NFT launch pad. All these services come with or without Sybil resistance as a backbone. Beyond that, we do a lot of service-related DAO aspects as well, as far as tokenization creation and build-outs for other projects. Currently, we're working on both a governance module as well as a very custom LGE platform for unfederal reserve. So, that's one of the things that we're working on at the moment. We have a lot of different little aspects that go on all the time, but over the years, we've built out quite the product service suite. So definitely check us out if you're, interested in Sybil resistance or in making your project Sybil resistant, since that's kind of a big deal nowadays. So really some exciting tech and really easy to implement. We have a kind of down to a science here. So single line of code and your contract, Web3 front end, or you can even do it at a token level as well. So really cool tech, easy to implement. Takes about a minute to register one time. Carries over to other chains. You can visit passport.governordao.org and get yourself a POE token. Otherwise, that's pretty much the synopsis.
Great. Thanks for that excellent intro, John. In terms of the Sybil resistance stuff, there's obviously a lot of places that can be implemented. Could you break down some of those places for the audience and our guests?
So, so Sybil resistance is the oldest problem in cryptography that's unsolved. It's the oldest problem in cryptocurrency as well, in blockchain, Web3 as a whole, pointed out in the original Bitcoin and Ethereum white papers, page 46 and 8, respectively. You know, there basically simple resistance is the event where a single individual pretends to be multiples in order to game the system. There's a couple different variants of this, but the most common you see is, like for instance, the Optimism airdrop just had like 46,000 addresses culled from the airdrop list for gaming the system, pretending to be multiple individuals with multiple wallets. So, the most kind of important places that we, see our tech being used, as well as, where we like to see it implemented, I think, the most obvious is kind of at token launch. So when you launch a token or a project, DAO, whatever it may be, whatever your base token is, whether it's governance, whether it's primary, it doesn't really matter. It can even be an NFT. In that case, putting our tech in there kind of allows for everything to be even keel as far as what the vote weight is and, how people participate. So you can have, multiple different entities with multiple different amounts of tokens and everything else as far as how those people are treated within consensus for voting and for bringing forth ideas, as well as for yield and everything else like that. That kind of levels it out, and it makes a much better and much healthier ecosystem across the board. So usually right at the beginning, it's a great place to put it. Another great place that we generally see the proof of existence, civil resistance tech, is kind of that's my wheelhouse in the governance faction. So a lot of projects that are already existent and kind of already in the space, you can't really kind of go back and edit their base token contract or anything else like that. It's harder to get it kind of into the ecosystem infrastructure. So usually situations like that, we see it used a lot in voting modules, both on and off chain. We have ready to go modules that plug that right in for you. Whether it's snapshot, scatter, or on-chain governance, it doesn't really matter. That's, usually a great use case because, once again, one of the biggest vectors we see both in rugged projects as just governance vectors in general is the fact that, flash loan exploits and stuff like that, where you can borrow large amounts of voting power and use it to your advantage. With this tech, it's pretty much irrelevant. How much you borrow or flash loan or do whatever, because it would just, in the worst case scenario, you would appear to be two people with two votes. So everyone else would get one theoretical vote. Even in the worst case scenario of gaming the system, you could theoretically gain two. So, that changes things dramatically from, 600,000 votes as we've seen with like the Bean exploit, et cetera. So, that's another great place to implement it. I would say that last and not least, but kind of the outlier to this is using this more for like a gating environment for a few different things. So if you think outside of the box a little bit and think about what PoE is and how it's used, not only is it a civil resistance tool, but also can be used for access control. So one of the things that we're currently working on, like I said, I had mentioned on Federal Reserve, as well as some other projects that we had worked with in the past, in order to not only provide the civil resistance aspect, but also to appropriately gate projects to a specific set of users. So for instance, in a regulatory compliance environment, when you're doing regulatory-based lending, only certain individuals from certain entities are allowed to be using the system in the first place. So setting things up with a traditional Web 2 authentication, username, password type thing, that's a great step. Beyond that, though, as a second layer or as a single layer, using PoE, where you can now say, okay, this is, company A version of PoE instead of the global PoE. And these are the 8 people, let's say, that get it. So now we can literally track internally without knowing who those individuals are, without kind of pulling anything else into the mix. And it gates just those 8 people from that one entity from actually, or allows them, I should say, it gates them into the system, allows them to interact on chain, off chain, however you see appropriate. It also allows that layer where both governor as an entity or the actual entity that's running the regulatory platform or the company that the person works for, all three layers are able to kind of revoke and or remove access from that individual. So as hiring, firing happens or exploits, whatever it may be, you can actually sever that access relatively easily. So that's kind of the three major that I like to talk about that you don't hear about as much. And those are all kind of novel things that we have in-house that I generally don't see many other places, if at all.
Definitely, if you wanted to check out Governor DAO, the links are at the top, the billboard there. We have a human-gated Discord using the proof of existence technology as well. And yeah, it's a free token, so claim it while you can, basically. Blake, we'll turn it over to you now.
It's been fun to work with the human gating aspect of things as well, with the Telegram and the Discord.
And for you, I was thinking maybe we could talk about the metaverse and how some of these projects see themselves adapting to that as it continues to build out.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I'll go ahead and invite everyone back up onto the stage here.
Awesome. So yeah, why don't we round table it, and we can start with we will start with unlock protocol. So Patrick, in terms of like the metaverse, as we get further in technology in the space and more projects adopt metaverse compatible implementations, where do you see unlock protocol fitting in?
Yeah, and I think it's necessary to really consider kind of definition of metaverse, because I think that could be used to describe a lot of spaces. When I think of metaverse, I see that being the world in which we are living in right now. I have never met any of you that are listening. I'm looking at all of your avatars on a phone. We're in this space that is digital, having conversations. I'll move from this to likely a video call where I'll be looking at somebody on a screen. I'll be doing most of my purchases online. So I think like we're living in that metaverse. When we think about the metaverse at Unlock Protocol, it's really through the lens of an interoperable web where we're traveling with a kind of wallet full of tokens that will enable us access to physical and digital spaces based upon the tokens that we contain. And those tokens can be earned, they can be purchased, they can be gifted. But that's really the spaces that we have. It's really about this: how do we create a standardized language around that kind of OAuth process as we're kind of moving in and out of spaces?
That's a good point. I mean, the metaverse can be so broadly defined, and definitely, I think even like with something like this, we'll start to see more of these meetings being held virtually in a VR type world, and even DAOs and things like that too as well, like having governance meetings, taking votes, realistically will all be taking place in a VR type avenue as well. So that's a great point that you bring up. We're still a ways away from that kind of thing, but we've seen lots of developments recently getting us closer to that. So thanks for that, Patrick. Why don't we go over to Dope Wars, who already has some experience, with their game and being in the metaverse. Where do you see Dope Wars evolving to in the metaverse?
Thanks. Yeah, great question. With our assets being all on chain and trying to develop a series of those assets, right, with our hustlers that are 2D right now, but might be represented in other experiences as 3D. We really see it as like an open-ended system of cooperation for different projects and different assets to represent themselves accordingly. I think the term metaverse is kind of open, like the term DAO is open right now, where you have a lot of people trying to define it based on their own perspective. So the way that we're really trying to manifest what our metaverse is providing these in-game characters where they can be used in a variety of different games, right? And I think that's a limited definition of the metaverse, but I think it's one that shows the possibilities of taking different assets and into different experiences, right? So if you talk about, like we're very centered on like the gaming aspect of it, and, being a player in a game, but you could also imagine taking your hustler and joining like a Zoom meeting or something, or like a metaverse meeting, like Patrick was saying, where transition to a video call. I really love the definition of this also being representation of a metaverse to some degree. It's kind of like the lo-fi metaverse. When I first jumped on the internet way back, Usenet or news groups was a thing, and maybe you could even stretch the definition all the way back there to say that was kind of like the OG metaverse, where we're speaking to each other through text, right? Now we've leveled up to pictures, and I think just as things evolve, we're getting more and more rich in our interactions, and so I really see that's where it's going to evolve. But there's also this threat of corporations like Facebook defining what the metaverse is for us. And is it going to be this sanitized 3D kind of Disney experience, or is it going to be a little bit more funky, a little bit more open, a little bit more dirty and free for expression? And I think that's really the fight that all of us here are trying to fight with Web3.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, with Meta and everything like that, like, is there a potential of us seeing like a totally dystopian metaverse future as well? We talk about gating mechanisms and things like that, like, and digital identity. It's like, there's a potential of not just having whitelists, but also, having blacklists eventually, where people might be banned from certain metaverses and things like that as well. So it's easy to go down a rabbit hole with anything related to the metaverse, but just interesting stuff, like food for thought wise.
For sure. And I just interject one last point there, in that, I would proposition or assert that like that version of the metaverse that's corporate controlled is likely the outcome, unless a number of us can kind of get together as a decentralized group and create an alternate future. So I think we're fighting an uphill battle, and I think we don't talk about that enough.
Yeah, the constant battle of decentralization versus centralization, and who are friends and who are posing as friends and realistically are, have corporate interests at heart. So that's a great point. I just wanted to circle back to Page DAO and ask them sort of the same question, like, where do you see the metaverse going, and what will Page DAO's involvement in that be?
Oh man, yeah, great question. This is fantastic. I actually have a tweet that I would like to direct everyone's attention to for this, just at the Page DAO Twitter page. I've recently retweeted a tweet from indefatigable.eth, who's kind of our technology guru for most of this stuff. I mean, I guess I'm trying to kind of get there myself, but there's a link here to arium.xyz/spaces/page.dao. And if you go there, you can actually see a section in what appears to be a metaverse library that's dedicated to my philosophy. So there's like a hall of philosophy, and then there's a handful of different philosophy books, and then you've got a collection of essays, formal dialectics. I think Further from Home and Bring Back Satire are in there, and so you can go scope out all my philosophical work. And what Robbie wants me to do is start to give like philosophy lectures. Like I could do like a 1 hour talk on one of my philosophy books there in the world, with my camera and microphone on, and other people also in the world with their cameras and microphones on could come, and we could have a conversation, and then basically record it. And I would have accomplished, quite a bit, philosophically speaking, because I basically created a lecture that would, kind of endure, and basically like, people who aren't so familiar with my philosophy could come, ask me whatever questions they have. And by recording this kind of for posterity, we could create sort of this, it's like the Feynman lectures on physics, except for, the philosophy of Thomas Dylan Daniel. And I think that's really, 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 really cool. So I think seeing more and more of this type of thing start to happen. I should be getting some airdrop land from the Stargaze punks as well over on Stargaze. So look for maybe some PageDAO metaverse related builds over there to start up. But we definitely do want to get into the metaverse. And we want to facilitate the type of connections that people can make using technology today in these special ways. So we see that. And then on the backside, there's actually a sort of a decentralization strengthening thing that can happen, which is that if we host our assets on IPFS, one function of how available those assets are and how useful they are by extension has to do with where the various different things are pinned and the various different gateways through which these things can be accessed. So if there was a persistent application that was running virtually on this metaverse and people were, interacting with it, even just sporadically, it can make the assets themselves more robustly available for all of the users who want to interact with them, right? Like we know from Web 2, the slow technology is technology that people don't like to use. So one of the, I don't know, I would say maybe the main focus point actually for Web 3 in terms of increasing the ease of use and the benefit to the user of a good user experience is making it a lot more like Web 2. It's making things faster. It's optimizing for the user's interest as they interact with these applications we're creating. And so, in so many different ways, I would say that the metaverse offers opportunities for us to create better technology.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's pretty epic. I'm just picturing getting digital book signings in the metaverse as well after your lectures. So many cool ideas and things and possibilities there.
Eth, you actually wrote an article about civil resistance and the metaverse, if I remember correctly. Maybe that's something you could mention.
Yeah, I'll pin that to the top.
Jeez. All right. So my thoughts on the metaverse topic and everything else. So one of my big thoughts is kind of, as has already been brought up here, I guess metaverse is really defined by the users and by the space itself. So there's going to be a lot of different platforms and metaverses, if you will, obviously in various shapes and forms. I do think that for a good amount of the more classic metaverses, as we've seen kind of pop up through different projects, et cetera, that a important part of that, kind of comes back towards our tech again and what we do, because I do feel like one of the really, really underlooked at portions of metaverse is that, we already have quite a few people on the globe. If this scales up as people think it will, it's going to get pretty interesting when, you have multiple players acting in the game and kind of, you have 20 John Greenwoods hanging around. Which one's real? Especially if I have a metaverse shop and I'm selling my development skills, whatever else it may be. So I think there's a lot of different aspects to kind of think of along the way of how this stuff gets implemented and how it, gets carried out. And, it's still so early in the game that it's, just all speculation at this point. But I do think that, having like the civil resistance component, as well as, some other security components in place for metaverse systems is, definitely a great idea, because as of right now, I do know that there's a couple that I've played around with that there is no limits or gating of any kind to. And I think that one of the big parts of, that metaverse crossover will be, the advent of like real life taking place in some form on metaverse. And, can run a couple of tests on my own, but haven't really gotten too deep into it yet. There's a couple of documentations out there
for what it's kind of, some hypotheticals on what it could look like if, metaverse spaces get inundated with, duplicates and or kind of bad actors. So as you had mentioned, Eth, I think it's, kind of important to set these things up so that there can be kind of blacklisting, whitelisting, and the ability to have free spaces in some areas that are, pretty much non-volatile. So, if it's just a place to go and listen to, speeches or written dialect, as mentioned previously, then, I see no issues there. As far as spaces that are more, finance centric, or where there's product service exchanges happening, then that's probably a better place to have some sort of implementation that, stops these things from getting gamified and codified into, a whole different, scam type group. So that's something that I fully expect to see kind of happen in the space. But otherwise, I'm pretty excited to see over the next year or so where metaverse kind of goes, and whether or not it ends up building out into kind of the big thing we think it will, or if it's going to just kind of linger around until it takes off with the rest of the market. So
it's a mystery of where it's going to go. Definitely, it would be cool to see like some like DAO town halls happening at a metaverse level, meetups. We're going to see things like virtual concerts where DAOs can vote on guests and things of that nature as well.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This has been a really great space. With Dope Wars, we talked about their great game that's they're building games or the same game over multiple networks using StarkNet and an MMO on Optimism. They're also working with DJ Green Lantern and also working with a magazine. You can check them out at dopewars.goodgames or dopewars.gg/game. With Page DAO, we talked about how they're making literature better for people who read and write, leveraging Web3 tech to reframe the publishing industry into a curation industry. Great stuff there. With Unlock Protocol, talking about NFT memberships that are time-based, such as subscriptions. That's pretty cool. I hadn't considered that before with NFTs, so that's pretty sweet. They also are working on ticketing contracts and working with Empire DAO to gate access with NFTs for buildings. So make sure and check all those out. You can find all their information in the billboard at the top, or by searching hashtag GDAO billboard. Be sure to check those out. We want to thank everyone for coming and joining us as we delve into the world of DAOs together. We'll be back next week and with another episode of DAO Speed Dating. Please be sure to follow any of the projects that you're interested in. And don't forget to get your free proof of existence token at onlyonemee.governordao.org. And you can learn more about proof of existence at proofofexistence.xyz. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.